I'm very, very excited to invite on stage in a second one of the top innovation leaders, all right, that is going to be the moderator of the panel of 2020 forecast from top innovation leaders. And of course, one of the top innovation leaders is the innovation leader of Vueling, which is Simone van Nierven. I will let you introduce your panel.
Yes.
It's all yours.
Good evening. So we are the lucky ones to have the last panel that keeps you away from the drinks. So let's make it exciting. And I'm happy to have like 3 real great people in my panel. So I'm looking forward to it. The first one is Albert from FC Barcelona.
Woo!
Second one, Alejandra. I want you also to come. And Victor, please join. I think we have, yes. So I will ask you the question. Last year I did a small experiment. My job is all about innovation, and then you experiment. And the experiments that fail, you have to quit immediately. But the ones that worked out well, you can retry and reuse. So last year I asked the panel to tell us 2 truths about themselves and 1 lie. And at the end of the panel, that we are going to guess which was the lie of the panel. So I will ask them, all of them, to introduce them a little bit. So what do you do? Maybe some history, where do you come from, where are you now? And then they will tell us 2 truths and 1 lie, and they obviously are not going to tell which the lie is. So we will keep that till the end. So maybe you can start, Albert.
Thank you, Simona. I'm Albert Mundet, Director of Barça Innovation Hub, which is the Knowledge and Innovation Department and at FC Barcelona, which has been working on that for 3 years. My background, I'm a physicist and a semi-professional football player. I've been playing for the FC Barcelona at the same time that I was actually studying physics. But when I finished my career, when I finished my bachelor's degree, I just wasn't good enough to continue playing soccer, so I just started to work on the tech transfer wall. First in different sectors, photonics, manufacturing, many different sectors. Sometimes on proper companies, and sometimes on the innovation consultancy business. I moved to New York to do my master's, and after that I came back again back to the consultancy innovation. When 5 years ago, I started consulting the club, FC Barcelona, to actually, design their innovation strategy, how a soccer club, a football club could actually implement an innovation strategy from a long-term vision, right? We are a members club, we got elections every 6 years, so this is kind of a complex environment to have long-term visions, but at that time they like it, and they hired me to actually implement what I pitched in a PPT.
Thanks. Alejandra?
Hello, I'm Alejandra Larecki. I'm Global Digital Director at Avas Media. I don't know if you're all aware of it. We are a big media company, one of the biggest ones in the world. I'm digital native. I've been working in digital for more than 13 years now. I was lucky enough to be hired by a digital boutique in Barcelona when I finished my studies. So I was able to learn from the old school digital developers. I've worked everything in digital, I suppose, since what has been of developing, copywriter, product management, and now I'm more in the media area and in driving digital transformation in key clients that we have. I'm a bit structured, so my lines I'm gonna tell you now 3 things, and then you will need to.
Yeah, because Albert forgot them.
No, I think he integrated it.
Oh, sorry.
I'm more structured. I cannot do that. I was thinking it while she was doing it. I said, I cannot do it. Okay, so I'm passionate about animals. Okay, I can identify, I think, every dog breed. I know them all, I believe. I once tried to pet a very furious elephant, okay? And I'm one of those persons that is able to stay very calm when we have a bee around, okay?
I'm looking forward to what was the lie, or what will be the lie.
Hi, my name is Victor Deutsch. Well, have 30 years of experience in IT. I first came from the University of Buenos Aires in Argentina. I was specialized in artificial intelligence. And my first year I was working in small consulting firms. Then I was in KPMG, at KPMG 6 years, working for the Latin American firm. And in the last 20 years, working for Telefónica. First, they hired me to work in Miami, and the last 19, 18 years working here in Spain. I was in different digital areas, from the cloud, e-health, and in the last years in cybersecurity. Well, you all know Telefónica is one of the biggest telco companies in the world. And, well,
Two truths
and one lie. The two truths. Well, I like writing. I have a personal blog, and I also write in different blogs of corporate blogs of Telefónica. I'm a tennis player, and sorry for Albert here, I don't like Messi.
So we can end this panel with a big fight, or that might be the lie. So let's see. let's keep that for the end. So I like to make a panel a little bit more personal, that you have a little bit of a feel who is here on stage. When I talk to people, for me, sometimes they explain their job and I have no clue what they're doing. So I would like you guys to tell me a little bit, but what do you do during a day? So maybe you start with, I don't know. So maybe Alejandra, you can start. How does a typical day for you look like? What do you do?
As I work with all the countries, I spend a lot of time in video calls. We are not able to travel to all the countries. I cover since Asia, China to Mexico, Australia. If you have to cover Australia and Mexico, you cannot do it. So I'm all the day stuck in calls. We have teams, so I'm almost there. I also spend a lot of time in front of a white sheet, trying to design which is going to be the digital strategy for our key clients, or which is the project. We are analyzing what they're doing, challenging what they can do, how they can improve. And then I have this other field that in Avas, in our company, we're very keen. It's to analyze what's happening. We spend a lot of time analyzing the consumer, how it is, but not only based on what they shop, how they are and what's coming, the markets as well, and the categories, what's happening in. So it's I study a lot.
But do you ever sleep? Because if you talk to all the different continents,
it's quite complicated, actually. And for me, the worst is Mexico.
Because of the time or something else?
The way of working and the time. It's like, because Australia, it's like very far, and you need to wake up very early, but they are structured. They bring everything studied. They have the key questions. When it comes to Mexico, you can spend a lot of time. That's okay.
Good. Albert, how does a typical day? You play soccer. You start with that or not?
I would love to do, but still don't have the skills. So I spend most of my time doing two things, right? Basically managing a team who runs a business on e-commerce. So it's an e-learning platform for sports professional, which is actually the business line that funds all the innovation and research projects that we implement on a daily basis. So I spend part of the time, managing the team who runs this business, and part of the time working and trying to persuade a lot of different FC Barcelona departments to integrate innovation projects with the startups, or at the same time working with the sports departments actually to bring them in on the research side. We also invest a lot on long-term research, mainly on sports science. So I have to, get really well aligned with the directors of each areas, that their teams will be, when they finish with the players and the training sessions, after that they spend time also with us developing the research and innovation projects. So most of the time doing meetings, but also learning a lot, trying to understand what are the key needs and challenges from all these departments, and then bringing the innovation managers to try to help them out in terms of solving them.
How large is your team?
14 people.
14 or 40?
14.
Okay. Victor, What is a typical day for you?
Well, working strategy, you have really two different things. To analyze the past and to foresee the future. They are the two things that you all day are doing.
As simple as that,
As
right?
simple as that. So most of my time is to analyze, for instance, the revenues of the different services, the profits and losses of the different services, and looking for the future, trying to analyze what the other telcos are doing, which are to scout the market and to see which new services and the new needs of the customers that you need in the B2B market especially are being driven by our sales force. Well, trying to analyze what will be our portfolio of services in the next years.
But we talked a little bit. Telefonica is not a typical telephone company anymore. It's transforming. So are you also looking at other competitors than just telcos, or is that?
Yes, we see what are doing the other telco, but also or the other digital players that you have, because especially in the cybersecurity market, there are lots of companies that are investing in different products and different lines of services, and the market is evolving every day. So you have to be very aware of what's happening in the market and which are the new needs of the customers, because the new needs of in terms of breaches and threats that the customers, especially the big customers, have in the security market.
So which competitor or which other company scares you the most?
Which
other company scares you the most? That keeps you awake at night?
Well, really not the big company. Really, the problem is that it's difficult to forecast which will be your next competitor, because startups in Silicon Valley evolve very quickly, and perhaps in 1 or 2 years there is a new unicorn in cybersecurity, and you need to be aware of that and to be prepared to manage that.
You also get prepared for Barcelona, not only Silicon Valley, right?
Yeah. Yes, because, for instance, we have startups here in Barcelona. One of our internal developments, which was a consequence of our intrapreneur programs, is a project we call Pulse ID. Pulse ID is a project for instance, continuous authentication of using a wearable to continuously authenticate a person in order to use this authentication for opening a door, opening your house, accessing to a car. And we are working with different startups in order to develop this technology, and perhaps it could be a niche of market that will be developed in the next years. We are trying to get there before, but there are lots of people working in the same market, and perhaps they can surpass us in this.
So wearables would also be nice for the soccer players, right?
We have a claim internally which we say the best wearable is the no wearable, right? So we have a lot of challenges in terms of having the players engage with the idea to bring some sort of sensors while they play competitions. That being said, the younger the players are, the more open to that. But one of the things, that's the main reason why we're transitioning a lot on, especially on tactical analysis, on moving from having biomarker or accelerometers into the players to a more computer vision solutions to gather data, and then applying a sort of a layer of artificial intelligence to start understanding how these collective behaviors are, and how we can measure a little bit more what's the contribution to a single player to the whole team. Which with the wearables, you are miss always your opponent, so you don't, from a tactical analysis standpoint, you are missing part of the game, and then at the same time, again, some of the players don't want to wear it, so sometimes you miss one player, so it's kind of tough. But yeah, we're moving forward in that sense.
So you are not doing anything with wearables, right? No. Is there something else that you see? You have the mic there.
Oh, sorry.
Is there something else that you are working a lot with, a new technology, or you foresee that will come in the world you work in?
We are working. We do kind of consultants to our top clients. We are now we're looking at there's the e-commerce. Okay, we have a lot of retail clients. And we see that e-commerce is key, and e-commerce has an experience. Well, it's like I'm sorry, let me explain well. It's like the omni-channel in e-commerce, okay? And how can we change this experience when the client is buying, and how can we translate this experience to each of them? In this one, we have e-commerce, okay? In e-commerce, it's how do they deliver? It's not technology, it's logistic, but it's one of the key problems that they have, and how they're losing, how it's very expensive, and actually all the e-commerce that they're not having and delivering in one day, it's a problem for the companies, and I don't know how it's going to end up. And then the other thing, it's experience in store. We are working on how can we increase, or how can we better digitalize or whatever in store to give another role to the brick and mortar, to the retailers. We are for the. Okay.
Yeah, so Victor, I heard you say in your intro that you studied AI. Looking at you, and I don't want to insult you, but I don't think you were like 25. So that has been a little bit long ago. So I know AI has, I think the first workshop on AI was in 1956. So what have you seen, because you probably are passionate about it, have been looking at it. What have you seen in the time that you studied it until now, and what is happening?
Well, I was in my first conference on artificial intelligence 27 years ago, in 1992 in Seoul, Korea. And the topics that we were talking about in that way were the same that we are talking about now. We were talking about autonomous driving, about digital assistance, how to interpret the natural language and translate it to machine. And the video pattern recognitions were the same problems that we had 30 years ago are the same that we have now. Really, what had changed, really, now we have more power processing, more connectivity, so we can have access to lots of data. The storage is cheap, so you can store lots of data from different variables from different sources. So really, we are the problems that we had in 30 years ago are achievable now with the technology we have today. But the models, you know, the algorithms, the models, the knowledge representation models, and the different techniques of reasoning that we had in artificial intelligence are the same that we had 30 years ago. Really, we had no evolution in that way, in that part of the problem, and really we had a very strong evolution in the power processing and the availability of data. So really, some of the problems that we had in the past are now possible to achieve because of that. This is some kind of advice for people, especially for startups, because you can see about the ideas that failed 30 years ago, 25 years ago, because of the lack of technology, now can be achievable because of you have the power to do this in this moment.
So actually what you're saying, there's hope. If you're working on something and nobody understands yet, maybe you just put it in the fridge and then take it out in 10 years from now, right? Yeah. So I think AI is one of the technologies. So we are in the panel that we look forward, and I'm actually happy not to look forward 10 years from now, but to next year, actually next month, right? Mm-hmm. It's 2020. So I think AI is one of the areas that has been applied and is being applied a lot. Can you give some examples besides the soccer you just?
Yeah. Basically, in sports, let me go back to the tactical analysis, which is something that I think it's really something new. I mean, sports is usually 10 years behind to other sectors, and the reason why is because, or at least football is a super unpredictable sport that enables, you know, a lot of let's put it this way, a lot of reliability on the fact that we're going to score a goal because we have the best player, right? So, and then the whole work of the staff sometimes are more on, you know, an experience-based know-how than purely some more quantitative way to value your work, right? So that being said, sports or football data has been mainly focusing on what a player does when they have when he has a ball, right? But this is challenging because at the end of the day, players have the ball just 5% of the time. So what they do with the 95% of the time, right? So we've been, in the last 5 years, football has been changing in terms of the type of data that we are able to track and start, and from that, so we are putting, again, computer vision cameras, transforming 25 times per second the position of the 20 players and the ball, and from that, starting to quantify for the first time more the process to an action and not the actions itself, right? And that's what the coaches are trying to answer by their experience-based analytics, right? We've been working a lot on putting coaches and data science guys in actually to start identifying these abstract tactical concepts, experience-based tactical concepts into models that then all these algorithms can track in just one click and have all the video tagged, right? Apart from that, going to the venue management solutions, we're applying artificial intelligence, start to modeling fans' flow when they access into the stadium. We're going to have a huge real estate development in the next 5 years at Camp Nou. We're going to rebuild the whole stadium while we play. That means that we're going to have a lot of incidences in terms of the construction work. We're going to be closing doors and having all these models and predict how these huge flows of human arriving to the stadium will behave when there is some certain issues for this construction work. Is something that for us is useful, and actually is a project that we are developing with Barcelona Supercomputing Center at UPC.
And that is interesting for me, because I think the flow of people we also have at airports. So I think it's very interesting. So I think we need to meet.
Let's talk.
Yeah, for sure. So if Alejandra, if I ask you, we talked a little bit before, and you mentioned the topic of the next generation, right? And you said, I see something is happening. So if we look a little bit at the future, I see something with the new generations. Can you share your insights and what you see?
I'm passionate about the new generation that's coming. It's what marketing start calling Gen Z. You know, we have forgotten millennials. We don't care about them anymore. We got them. We know them. We have a new one that's Gen Z, and I actually like it a lot because I feel that it's we call Gen Z those people that were born with a mobile. And technology, it's not important for them. They're not conscious about the technology that they have in their day-to-day. And that makes a great difference because they're focusing on other things. They are going back to basics, back to what we did before. They're more political driven. They want to change the world. They're concerned about sustainability. They don't want bullshit. And they have a very nice spirit that they want to work very hard now. They have seen millennials fail because they thought that they deserved everything. They grew up in a world where everything was easy, and then they wanna go back to learn the el oficio. I don't know how you say it, but learn with practice. They want to. So I'm very passionate about what comes and a bit more. I don't know. I want to follow them. And
one of the things that in terms of we are super obsessed on how these new generations consume content, right? Because we have a product which is 90 minutes, no stop, and it's getting bored for all these guys, right? So we like to see ourselves not competing anymore with Real Madrid, actually cooperating with Real Madrid in order to compete with the Fortnites of this world, right?
Oh, yeah, Fortnite is almost 26% of the entertainment they consume.
So that, and when you go to the stadium and you see all these kids just not watching the game and just watching their phones, and when there is a goal, okay, they just jump and say goal, but then back to the phone. It's challenging from us, and in that sense, the whole club is starting to restructure ourselves. We created the brand department, which is actually launching an OTT in the next months. We are considering ourselves not anymore as sports clubs. We are transitioning into a global sports entertainment company. We have built our own production company, Barca Studios. So in a way, we are worried, and we are kind of obsessed on how we're going to do that transition, right?
As they grew up with a phone, they have only the capability to pay 8 seconds attention, like a goldfish. And so it's complicated. And when it comes to content, they consume it like obsessive. They spend more than, I think it is, they interact 100 times with the phone in the day, and they spend 9 hours a day consuming content and entertainment, which is more than sleeping. So but for them, it's real life. They don't they don't distinguish. If you tell them how many times have you been in the mobile, they say like, why?
Well, you asked that, right? Yeah.
But touching upon another subject you mentioned is sustainability, which is working in an airline, quite an interesting topic. I try to get more consciousness about maybe we are not an airline in 10 years anymore, and we should think about trains and autonomous cars.
Iberia just declared it, no? Had the CEO of Iberia made a declaration.
Yeah, but if I look at the younger generations, they probably will not fly. Well, not only the younger generation. I'm not that young, but I also like to go by train if I go to Madrid. So that is happening right now. So I think every company has to think about sustainability as a big issue. And I think every industry has its own challenges there. So looking at Telefónica, are you doing anything in this field of sustainability, or?
Well, we have a corporate policy in sustainability. We are, especially in the management of waste, we are generating lots of waste. You know, when you renovate a network, there are lots of cables and different infrastructure that you have to remove and to dispose. So we are working a lot in that, in trying to manage in a sustainable way the waste that we generate working in the networks. This is one of the corporate policies, and we also contribute to different initiatives in terms of clean energy, using, for instance, auto-generation, self-generation capacity in our offices, and using all kind of in fact, we have practice in consulting about the management of energy in companies, in using to optimize the consumption of energy in companies. So it's one of our key indicators is how we manage the energy in the corporation.
It would also be interesting to look at how we manage the energy of our people, right? Yeah.
Actually, there is some trend. I was in Israel last week, and there is a company. There is also a company in the UK which is actually starting to create energy from the footsteps, right? Still really, really in the beginnings, still super niche, still for marketing purposes, not actually a real actionable solution, but it might be something there, right?
You were looking at that because all the players, they run a lot, so they
actually,
generate a lot of energy,
there is one
right?
case, there is one of my favorite innovation cases is actually one of I think it was Shell together with this company Pabigine it's called, which actually in a favela in Brazil they built one pitch with this technology, and for that kind of space, these solutions were actually able to put lights on that pitch, and that's the only place where they were light at night, right? So it kind of gathered all the kids and all the favela people going to the pitch playing soccer. It kind of, from a social impact standpoint, that was a great example. So that was just a case in one specific circumstances, but I feel like there is something there, right?
So I think it's also nice to go to the next topic, because a lot of startups are here. So how I think each of us are working with startups. So maybe Alejandra, you told me something about your brother and your.
We have.
You are surrounded by founders also,
yeah,
right?
I have my personal life. I'm surrounded. I'm married to a startupper, Caravelo. I don't know if somebody here knows the company. And also my brother-in-law has PAC. I don't know if you know it. It's one. Okay. So I'm surrounded. I have this. I know how the impact.
You got the virus.
Huh?
You got the virus.
Yeah, I know the impact on the family about it. But it's okay. And then on the other hand, at the company, we have a project that's called Planta Siete at Havas. And what we do is people can volunteer to dedicate the 7% of their time, working time, to help as a pro bono startups. So startups can come, and you have the service of the media agency, the creative agencies to help you in your products. And we put together the team.
And I think you were focused on early stage startups, right? So that's quite interesting for people here.
Well, yes, it's early stage startup. In my case, I've worked in 2 projects. I worked one in Valet. I don't know if you Valid, it was like parking cars. and they wanted to do all the rebranding, and we helped them, okay? And then the other one was SEK, S-E-K-G. That's very interesting. It has something to do about what you do. It's what they're doing is they're an emotional software. They're able to track emotions of people, and they saw that they were doing it for marketing, but they pivot to do it for for gamers, esports, that they can track how they were reacting while they were playing, so that they can train themselves to be more calm and take the right decisions. And we help them there as well.
Victor, maybe you can explain a little bit?
Yes, and well, Telefónica has lots of programs for startups. Some of them are very well known, like Guaira, like Amerigo, which are different programs to support startups in different stages. In this moment, I'm working in a project which is called Start for Big, which is a program that will be launched here in Barcelona. It is co-sponsored by Telefónica, Caixa, SEAT, and Aguas de Barcelona, and Naturgy. And we are trying to look for startups in order to develop different use cases using the technology I mentioned before, using the technology about continuous authentication using the human pulse with a wearable. We are working in two different directions. First, having our algorithm, which is patented by Telefónica, is an asset by Telefónica. We are delivering into different companies, different startups, in order to develop use cases. You know, it can be a use case for a car, a use case for a home, a use case for opening or to unblock a PC or different infrastructures. So we are working with these other partners in order to select different partners, different startups to work in these different use cases. And in another way, we are looking for collaboration with universities in order to refine the algorithms. You need this sort of algorithm for identification is based on neural networks, which is one of these techniques in artificial intelligence. And neural network needs lots of training, lots of cases to be trained. So we are working with universities, in this case with universities in Andalusia, to look for a research team to refine the algorithm using lots of cases, using different levels of noise to optimize the algorithm to be very accurate in terms of a commercial use of the wearable.
Well, in our case, we are pretty much restricted for our governance model. So we are a non-profit association to promote sports, so we cannot take stake on companies. We can create joint ventures, but then we have to go to the General Assembly. Anyway, pretty complex structure. So we cannot take stake on companies. So we cannot have the traditional accelerator, incubator, like many corporations do. What we have is a co-development program, right? So what we work with our experts, 7 guys who had a lot of experience in our different departments, both in the sports and the corporate side. And we select specific challenges on a yearly basis, and then we scout solutions that may solve all these challenges, right? And if we have the right match, we put together the startup and internal teams to actually improve a product that is already in the market, that has been already tested by other solutions, but we understand that we can bring value on the product development standpoint. So we set this co-development roadmap projects in between 6 months to 12. And when we finish that specific process with specific milestones, if everything went well, we integrate them as a client-supplier perspective, and then we kind of help them on their commercial strategy, kind of co-branding that the product has been co-developed with Barca Innovation Hub, and showcase, and they can leverage our also facilities and technical staff to showcase their solution to potential client, right? For us, it's a way to develop internal talent. So we have physical trainers work with engineers on their tracking devices to integrate these solutions as well internally and have latest technologies being implemented at the club, and also to create value to the whole sports community by having these solutions more adapted to the market needs as well.
So I still have quite a lot of questions, but I want to open up because maybe you guys have some questions for us in the panel, and if not, I can continue, but I cannot see. So let me see if someone has a question for someone in the panel or not, Because I can come to you. No, no so far? So are you all asleep, or do you want to go to the drinks, or what is it? No? So we are here in a university, so the next question, what I will always like to hear is, when you drive innovation, it is always, we talked about that, is how do you keep up, right? How do you keep learning? Because innovation is about being open and and learn new stuff. So I asked them, what is the last thing you learned? And it doesn't have to be in a school or in a, how do you say that? In a course or whatever. It can also be that you learn something from your children, or I don't know. So maybe you can share, Victor, you can start with, what did you learn the last?
Well, in the last month, we are working in what we call operational security in, for instance, in shop floors, in industries, which is a field that is not well covered by cybersecurity in this moment. You know, the industrial plants and the industries where all the PLCs and all the production line controls were quite separate from the IT. You know? And the people in the IT didn't manage the different devices that they had in the industrial plants and the controls and the automatic controls that they had in the plant. It was a matter of the industrial engineers and the maintenance people, but not really for the IT people. So in the last months, we are working with some experts in the industry in different areas in order to try to learn how to converge both worlds in order to have an integral solution for cybersecurity.
And how do you learn? You go to YouTube and you look all kind of videos?
Oh, really, we're trying to, in both ways. Working with the people in industry, the manufacturers of technology in PLCs, for instance, traditional companies that work in that world, and trying to, see how can a telecommunications company having the access to the internet and having they have the need to connect their devices to the internet, how we can collaborate with them in order to secure that. And in other way, working with some people who have industrial knowledge and some IT knowledge in order to develop or adapt our solutions for the industrial world.
Alejandra, do you have something you want to share that you learned?
I learned by doing, actually. For me, it's very complicated to have time to do a course, and actually it's complicated to find a course that gives you the answer of what you need in the moment. So normally we just jump in the field and do it. And we put together all the sources, try to find insights. So I learned by doing. The last thing was the Gen Z thing, okay, that we had to drill down a lot of data, also about China. We are learning a lot about China with our China desk team that we have, and also putting together all the resources and the sources that we can have and try to learn about it and make it digestible to be able to train people.
So what was the key insight about China? I'm passionate about China. Yeah.
China, it's like entering a new planet. It's different. The way they see life and the way they see technology, everything. It's very interesting seeing how they tier everything. It's tier. It's such a big that cities are tiering 1. How the tier 3 cities are going to start growing with all the startups that they're going there. And craziness about people. There's one, it used to be, it's now a trend they have been applying, about how they're doing like real life e-commerce selling, and how there's the family of people that sell pearls, yeah. And that they made a fortune. Yeah. And it was the young person in the family that was just recording on the platform. I think it was WeChat. He was recording on real time how I open a pearl, there's 2, woo-hoo, number, like it was a lottery, and they made 2 million, so 3 million in an hour. Yeah,
if you have they have like 1.4 billion people over there, right? So if you have 10 million customers, it's easy. Yeah.
Actually, if you have a very little share in the market, you can make a fortune. Yeah. You don't need to have a massive reach.
Yeah, so that might also be an advice. So you can make it in China, right?
Well, it makes sense with the presentation that we saw before and how they structured animals. In China, you can get a lot of mice.
Yeah, exactly.
So in my case, one of the things that I like to work at an innovation at Barcelona is that you can get, one conversation with a specific guy on, e-marketing automation up to talking to the first team doctor on whatever thing on sports medicine, right? In my case, this morning I was reading a paper on genetics and sports and the correlation between, genetic markers and specific injury prevention tactics, let's put it this way.
Oh, interesting. So what I did was, maybe it's a nice one. It's a free online course, and it's called Adaptable Mindset. And it teaches you how to open up your mind and where to get your inspiration from. And I think that is key also in the field of innovation, right? That you're not sticking only into your own silo or your own world, but that you open up and that you get insights from everywhere. What I would like to do, because I look a little bit at the time, I think the startup contest outcome will come, but I promised you one thing, that we need to guess what the lies are that the panel told us, right? So Victor, can you sum up your 3 things? So, and we are going to guess what the lie is, right?
Well, I said I love writing. I had lots of articles and in my personal blog and in corporate blogs that I play tennis and I didn't like Messi. And the lie is quite obvious.
No,
I'm not a very good liar.
We should guess, right? Which was the lie, that you don't like Messi? No. The lie was? The lie was?
I really like Messi.
Yes. But which was the lie? Because I didn't hear well. Oh, you like Messi?
I really like
Messi. Yeah. For sure, yeah.
I said that that I'm able to identify whatever breed of dog I see. Okay, that I can even that I wanted to pet a furious elephant one, and that I can stay calm when I see a bee.
So what do we think? The bee?
Yeah.
The bee. So you panic.
Yeah, I was almost about to throw my baby to the
But
water
you,
once.
But you
because he had a
also
bee.
have a nice story about the dog hairs, right? Because that surprised me.
Oh yeah, yes. It was kind of scary. I was able to tell one who was what dog he had because I saw
The
hair
hair
on the jacket. So
Oh my God, you
I
better
should
watch out.
yeah.
There are lots of dogs in Barcelona, so you can train.
I can even say which, the mix. I can tell which is the. But I love dogs since I was a kid. So.
Well, in
So
my
when
case-
we have to discover your 3 from your story, right?
Yeah, so my story, the first one, that I am a physicist, former physicist, that I am was a semi-professional player, and the third one that I spent 2 years in New York doing my master's.
What do we think? The player.
I don't look like a player?
No.
You're right.
Yes. Yes. So I'm not sure if there's still a question. I cannot see if someone raises a hand. No? I will be there close to the wine. I don't know. I think you too, or not? So yeah. So if you have some questions, you can come to us in the other very cold room. So so keep warm. So I think Tim. Are you ready or not? Or do we...
I can see that there's a great chat going on, so I'm not intervening. You know.
Yeah.
Is there any questions? Because we still got a
yes.
couple of minutes if you really want, but I know everybody's looking forward for the drinks. Yeah, there's one question from Marta. I almost know everybody's name, I think. That's going to happen soon, huh?
So I guess it's for Alejandra. I'm curious if you guys have ever worked with AI influencers. So actually, what I learned yesterday, I was listening to a podcast by a growth show by HubSpot, and I've learned that there are actual AI influencers on Instagram nowadays. They are not real people, but they're just created by companies, and then big brands employ them to to do the marketing. And what do you think about it? Have you ever done it? Because for me, it was just incredible.
Okay, it has been several years on top. It's very. We work with them a lot with fashion brands. There's several Michela, little Michela, And what they do is fashion brands will put them dresses, and they do like, and there's also now a trend that it's to create avatars for brands. Okay, and we create like virtual, we do it, but except for paying an influencer to put it, we're trying to create the ones for the, what my opinion, if Micaela, she's an influencer at the end, she's a face, it's another face, but he has followers, she has a way of doing, so if brands go there, it's okay. In my belief, influencers, it has been like a big boom, and we never need to lose, as a brand, lose focus that some things are okay and some things no, you know, and but it works, and Micaela works perfectly, and she fits, and brands fit perfect. And about the avatars for the brand, it still looks a little bit fake. I don't know if you have seen some, but AI is getting there, and they're working, and it's getting quite, but it is a trend.
Yes, one more question.
Hello, me am Alejandro. Alexander. I have a question. We are talking about innovations, and it's interesting. Are you more focused on like science, rocket innovation? I don't know. Telefonica works on time machine you can call to your grandchildren, or you more focused on innovation when you can implement, like in 1 year, like more practical innovations? Thank you. Clear? The question?
Yeah. In my case, on the first phase of the development of Barça Innovation Hub, we are now focusing on incremental innovation. But right now, we are actually designing the way on actually working on the long-term, even long-term, and I will add tough tech solutions. We're going to be launching this program probably in the next year. But right now, the first phase, we needed to get buy-in internally, so create value internally, so you can leverage all the expertise and know how to actually get involved, all the corporation into the innovation projects.
We have both, we're working in both terms. We have some of the innovation teams are working in next year's evolution of the products, and there are others that are working in moonshot kind of projects. But they are different groups, they are working with different methodologies, and they both have different KPIs for measuring their results.
Yeah, in my team, we work in 3 horizons. So we work in Horizon 1, which is the here and the now. So we identify the biggest pains of our customers, and we try to solve them with new tech. Horizon 2 is what happens in 5 years. So we create a vision about how it'll look like when you go to the airport in 5 years. And then in Horizon 3 is like the crazy stuff, one of the moonshots. And the reason why I work in Horizon 1 is to gain trust from the company, to open up and to say, hey, are we still an airline in 10 years? Because if you only say that last one, everybody thinks like, hey, there's the crazy team. Okay, we do all the work, and I don't know what they're saying. So,
Still no time machine, right?
and now I know his name is Jasper.
But yeah, he asked for a time machine. No, he was saying that, are you even innovating a time machine? Let me know if you do. Yeah, please.
Hi, thank you. My name is Jasper. I want to touch upon what you just said, which is working in the horizons, right? Because of course, I mean, if you look into innovation, there's a lot of cool things that you can do. And you need to convince your football players to join. You need to convince, Mexico, right, to join. And you have also a massive company to work with, right? So you gave a practical example in working in horizons. If we look into 2020, what would be the thing you do different in order to get the organization with you, with the innovation? I mean, for anyone.
So that is next month, right?
I like to think, let me go one step behind. I like to think corporate innovation as if it was a product development methodology kind of framework. So you have to iterate your framework because your company, it's also changing, is a dynamic company, and you have to test different ways to get people engaged on everything that you do from a long-term basis and also from a short-term basis. In my case, we got much more traction at the beginning on the sports science world. And that's because the mindset of the guys who work on doctor and sports medicine, nutrition, physiotherapies. They are kind of, their personal branding is attached on the papers that they publish. The only thing that we had to do at the beginning was bringing them from purely publishing papers to actually applying this knowledge into new products and services. If we're doing right now, we have several examples of it. Right now, in the last year, we've been focusing much more on, on digital department, marketing, which these guys are much tougher in terms of, because they are too focused on the, the day-to-day operations, right? What I would change from the last year is, instead of going push in terms of let's try this startup, we scouted this, it's basically work with their providers. They already have providers that, in a way, they are kind of helping them out in terms of how they improve their products. The only way is we just bring methodology in how this can be managed in a better way. We have people that is trained on that, and how this kind of product development improvements can be actually merged, and not just in a formal way. And with that sense, we create value to that specific business unit, and from that you keep growing, right? So that's the kind of thing that we are starting to do. Instead of going push, a little bit more pull.
In my case, no rocket science, okay, quite simple. We have created, or we have put together like a core digital team, very little, about, it's 4 of us, senior digital people, to be able to, and give us power of decision so that we can move forward things in an agile way, because we come from a very big company and things get lost, so to be this core team. And then another thing to give, because we are a service company, we work for clients. So what we have done is we put together a methodology of digital transformation things that we think are not rocket science, but all our clients should have. And we've launched a survey to all our clients to map how they are in each country and put a digital roadmap to 2020. So that at the end, we have been able to develop those projects. No rocket science, not high innovation, but at least we make them get there. Okay.
Well, I think we don't need to be very original in order to convince the organization to innovate, because all the organizations convinced that we need to innovate and to develop new products. The discussion is about the priorities. If you need to invest in one area or not, because Telefónica has a very huge portfolio of different solutions. So the discussion is where you need to allocate the capex, the money. So I think the best solution for that is to be innovative in the way to finance your innovation program. For instance, 3 years ago, our president came asked to say, well, I need a solution for cybersecurity for SME, because we had a huge market of SME and we had no security solution for them. But you have no capex for that. It was a good challenge, because we had to develop a product but with no money. So. But we looked for different solutions. We looked for a revenue share program. We tried to share infrastructure we have for our residential market in order to be usable for the SME market. So we developed different solutions doing that without capex. So finally, we could develop the product, and the president was right. We were able to do that without having capex. So what we need is to be original in terms of how to allocate the money, and how to save money in capex in order to develop products.
Thanks. And I just got a small sign
that
we are closed for questions, but we are open for questions in the bar.
Exactly. I think, is everybody staying around there? Yeah? That's perfect. So if you do have any other questions, they'll be there. But I'd like to thank you all right? Thank you so much. Big up to everybody here. Thank you, Simona, as usual. Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you, sir. We had some amazing names. We had Vueling, FC Barcelona, Havas Media, Telefónica. Why this amazing closing as a panel? Well, it's the 10th edition of Milton Lab. I don't know if you've been here before. I asked, I think, to a couple of you, and you said yes. But this was the 10th edition. So after this, we'll announce, obviously, the 11th one.